All right. Good. It's out of my wheel gate, so. All right, so I'd like everybody to, if you would, be silent for just a moment, and we'll channel some energy from Kevin Charles Judd. All right, so welcome, and on behalf of the entire Charles Judd family, I would like to welcome and thank every one of you for coming. Looking out at this crowd is overwhelmingly cool. I can't even, there aren't words truly to describe every corner of our lives coming together. So thank you. I can do it.
We got all day.
We got all day. We've all had plenty of food. All right, so as we know, we're here to celebrate the life of Kevin Charles Judd. He was the eldest son of Jane and Charlie, big brother to Jan, Beth, and Scott, all here, and husband to Lisa, who unfortunately wasn't able to join us today, so she sent these beautiful flowers so that she could be a part of the service and the beautiful day that we're going to share. I also had to put a picture of Mom there and a little Angels Gather Here sign because they're with us. And as I've been planning this, I've been feeling it. Kevin's been talking to me through the window, through a planet. You know me. And he cleared the rain away this morning for us too. So, you know, he rocks. So yeah, he was our brother, husband to Lisa, and father to Blake and Clint, and uncle to Christopher, Seamus, and Dylan. Kevin was also, as we know, a cherished friend to many, and many of you who are here. So Kevin was born on July 4th, 1956, and I followed soon after in May of 58. There was never a day in my life that my big brother wasn't there. Whether he was far or near, he was always there. When we were 2 and 4, we moved to Stamford and lived on Boughton Street West. He and I used to use the baby grand piano. Somebody mentioned the piano, that was you. I loved it. We used to use it as a submarine. We were fun. And then when the Beatles came on the scene, we were so into it, and Mom totally supported us, bought the albums, let us rock out in the living room, and we would take Dad's tennis rackets and use them as guitars. So this is where the enthusiasm and passion for music really started. So we were so appreciative that we had that support. Kevin, as everybody knows, had a lifetime passion for music, and I was happy to be a part of it. I mean, I have a passion for music too, but not like him. And so that was a really cool memory of living in that place. We were only there for a couple of years, but we made lifelong friends, one of whom is here today. You'll meet her in a little bit. Then we moved to Big Oak Road, where Dad still lives to this day in the homestead. And we continued to rock on, of course. That was also a neighborhood chock full of kids, and some of them are here today as well. And we had so much fun. We played games out in the street and flashlight tag, and it was climbing Big Rock and riding our bikes everywhere. And just seeing some of you guys here today that we used to ride to each other's houses and meet up to play games and go look for frogs in the creek. And Courage. It was, Courage was the place, man. It was just a magical, magical place to grow up. So we've continued to follow the music of the 60s and 70s, and Kevin's zealous ability to study the music of the bands and the albums and maintain all the information was born there. When Scott was born, Kevin got to have, it was a big ranch that we lived in, and Kevin got to have a little, what they would call now a man cave in the basement. So he had his little man cave, and he would be playing music, and I would walk down the stairs, and he would say, "What band is this? Who's singing? You know, who wrote the song?" And I would be like, "Oh my God, I don't know. I just rock out. I don't have any of these details." But that was Kevin, man. To the end of his life, he loved reading all the liner notes, memorizing all the information, and it was quite incredible. And I also just idolized him, so I secretly wanted to answer all the questions correctly and was mortified when I couldn't. When I was 14, he took me to my first big venue concert at the New Haven Coliseum. Somebody here might have been in that car with us. I'm pretty sure he might be speaking a little later, too. And it was the Jay Giles Band. And I felt so proud. I was 14, they were 16, and they just were starting to drive, and I couldn't believe I got included. It was just so cool. And Dad hooked us up with parking at the telephone company building in New Haven. So, we felt like we were, in the A-League. So time moved on, and Kevin and I always kept in touch. We wrote a lot of letters back in the day before all this texting and whatnot. I mean, even making phone calls when he was at college was going to the payphone and trying to find enough money to call him. But we always kept in touch. And then after college, he really never came back home. He worked at Deer Valley, our very cherished YMCA family camp that we all still go to this day. And he also, he worked in the oil fields one year. But we wrote letters all throughout that and kept in touch. So he met Lisa at Deer Valley, and they married soon after he graduated from college. And I have volumes of mixtapes and CDs that he made over the years. And a lot of people in this room have them too. And I have to say that my favorite was called Jan's Winter Pick-Me-Up. Because I always got blue in the winter, and he knew it. And I would get the little envelope in the mail, and it would be my own personal mixtape. And I have them to this day with their flimsy little plastic covers. So that was incredible. And in 2020, he began planning his retirement. And he and I were talking about, insurance and COBRA and Medicare and all that good stuff. So I was helping him with that stuff. He was helping me with financial stuff. And then we never really got to enjoy those retirement years together. But I'll tell you what, Kevin remained positive throughout his illness. He was a pillar of strength. One of the last things he said to me was, "We don't know why this happened, but it did." And I sure do miss him. He's a beautiful angel. Thank you, and Scott Judd is coming up next.
I'm running my own sound.
Move it over here.
That's too loud.
You could tell me if you want.
Those two knobs closest to you, turn them both down a tiny bit. Take that to like 6 to 5. And no, the one below it. Here I goes. Thanks to Brian Curry for the amplifier. So, that's a little hot. Things change when you put bodies in a room. We tested all this earlier. Yeah, so as Jan mentioned, music that's not good.
And we don't have
Check, check.
All right, there we go. Yeah, so much of what Jan said I can echo. Kevin was just an enormous figure in my life. He was 11 when I was born. And, the energy and the the volume of life that was packed into that guy just immediately started shooting into me as a kid, and I just have incredible memories of being down at Roxbury Winter Club with Dad and Kevin shooting pucks as soon as I could walk. They had me on skates, and this is where, you know, not only did the girls learn to figure skate and we learned to play hockey, but this is where people might have had their first kiss and their first cigarette, and Please Mr. Postman was playing on the speakers out, you know, we're down in the woods in an outdoor rink and just some bottom land down the hill from the tennis courts at the club where my dad still plays tennis at 92 years old and paddle tennis in the winter. He's the lifer all year long. And that Roxbury place was central to our lives, and that's really where I had, as a little guy, some of my most deep connections with Kevin, where he was getting into hockey hard, and I remember he made me shoot about 100 snapshots off the boards one day, just over and over and over, and I could barely do it at the beginning, but by the end I could do it. And then they had me start skating on real teams shortly after, and in my first shift of my first game, I took the face off, put it right through the other guy's legs, jumped around him, grabbed the puck, split the defense, went down one-on-one on the goalie, like in the night, in the fog, in the dark, and I scored on a snapshot. And it was directly connected to that lesson from Kevin and Dad. And Kevin wasn't there, Dad was there, but I was looking around like, did Kevin see that? Because I wasn't that good at practice, but when it came to game time, I got one off, and it was all him. And it was just like that with him. He would just show you the way. And with music, music became a huge part of my life as well, still is. I was the only kid in the family that didn't take piano lessons, and I'm the only kid in the family that plays music as an adult. Make what you will of that. But I moved to Oregon when I was 24. To fast forward, I got out of college. I lived in Connecticut for a little while, and I followed a friend out west, and that all went well. But I got a little bored of that, and I felt very isolated from my family, and so I moved to Chicago in 1995, where Kevin and Lisa were raising Blake and Clint. And so I got many years of living as an adult, you know, because Kevin left home when I was 7. So we were tight, you know. He was my big brother. He took me to baseball games, taught me hockey, taught us a lot about music, and we learned a lot of good 70s vocabulary from him. All the lingo came home, first from Kevin and then Jan and Beth, and all the words of the day. You know, starting just with things like dude, you know, whoever heard dude. What were some of the other ones? Lame.
That was one of
In
his
college,
favorites.
re-rack.
Re-rack, yeah, you get up for a while, you didn't sleep enough, you go back to bed, you got to re-rack. There were many, but yeah, Kevin always to his dying day, always had colorful lingo that informed all of us, and we all still speak like that. But anyway, moving to Chicago kind of on a whim on 95 ended up being very special because I got to be with Blake and Clint when they were teenagers and spent a lot of time. My now wife Alyssa and I would go out and play euchre with Kevin and Lisa in the evenings and spend quality time with the boys. And then lo and behold, the boys grew up. Kevin and Lisa needed to flee the city area as they were closing in on retirement, so they moved to Kentucky, which was only 5 hours from Chicago. And we had some real quality visits down there. It was only, you know, easy drive, and Kevin, by that point I was playing in a band called Tangleweed, and Kevin was very helpful introducing us to some people in Kentucky. So we got invited to play some festivals down there, and actually played to one of the biggest crowds we ever addressed. Was at a stadium where like the Allman Brothers had just played 3 nights prior, which is Kevin's favorite band, and we played in front of like 1,000 people at the Kentucky Music Weekend, thanks to him introducing us to somebody. So great connections with music and with Kentucky and making the trip down. And of course, when things changed for Kevin a couple of years ago, after he had that first seizure that alerted us to the problems that were going on, we knew time was precious, so I made a lot of trips down there. He and Blake and Clint and I and Lisa all spent a lot of time together, and all Kevin wanted to do was talk about the good times and play some music and sit on their porch and look at the yard and watch the birds and watch the deer. He never had any pity. He never even was angry, you know, and we were full of pity and anger. I will not lie. I had all of that. I shook my fist at the universe daily for a long time, but he never did, and being with him would calm you down. I remember Ken, early on when it started, one of Kevin's oldest friends called Kevin to offer support, and I remember we exchanged an email. You know, did you talk to Kevin? He goes, yeah. I was crying faster than he was, and he was supporting me. And that's what it was like. We were all kind of falling apart around him, and he was holding it up, and he did, right through the end. And whenever I'd get down there, he'd say, what are we listening to tonight? Give me a beer. Look at that hawk in the yard. And a lot of times, and they'd say, get your guitar, play me some songs. And so Clint and I, either on our own or together, had these epic sessions where we would.
There's a warbler out there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, right there, right in the branch, right looking, look up.
He just went up. It's left.
He's right there.
We're bird
Sorry,
people.
we're a little
sorry.
bird obsessed. But anyway, one of the things, the most cherished things I would do with Kevin on those visits was we'd just get the guitar and just start playing songs, and it could go for hours. And I would always just play whatever came to mind. I tried to play stuff he knew and stuff he didn't know and mix it up and play things I wrote. And then one night on one of my last visits with him, I said, all right, bro, we're mixing it up. I'm going to open my laptop and you just shout songs at me. And if I don't know them, I'll look it up, I'll find the chords and the lyrics online, and I'll figure them out. And we did like 15 songs that way, and he started singing with me, which was something he never did. He would belt a chorus now and then, and he could fake a saxophone solo. Like, yeah, he could play the best like lip horns, but he was not a singer. But on this night, I'm playing all these old Buffalo Springfield and Neil Young and the Beatles and John Prine, and he's just reeling me through stuff, most of which I'd never done, but I've gotten to the point where it's easy enough. They're folk songs, how hard can they be? And I knew most of them. And so we get through this kind of magical hour of doing this, and I say, all right, one more, dig deep. What's a song that I've never played for you that you really want to hear? And he thinks for a second, and he says, I Am a Child by Buffalo Springfield, which was one of Neil Young's first bands. And I know the song well, but I'd never played it, so I looked it up and figured it out, and we did it together, and he was singing with me. And I think it came out when he was 11 or 12. And he said that song just resonated with me in deep, deep ways that to this day I don't quite understand, but he's like, I just loved it. And we sang it, and he sang the chorus with me, and it was all I could do to get through it and hold it together. But he was like right in there, just staring at me, just locked eyes. And it was one of the sweetest things that ever happened in my life. And on that note, I'm going to play that song for y'all right now. Child, I last a while. You can't conceive of the pleasure in my smile. You hold my hand, scruff up my hair. It's lots of fun to have you there. I gave to you, now you give to me. I'd like to know what you learned. Sky is blue and so is the sea. What is the color when black is burned? What is the color we? You are a man, you understand. You pick me up and you lay me down again. You make the rules, you say what's fair. It's lots of fun to have you there. God gave to you, now you give to me. I'd like to know what you learned. Sky is blue and so is the sea. What is the color when black is burned? What is the color we? I last a while. You can't conceive of the pleasure in my smile.
Thank you very much.